Most of us live inside a quiet tragedy we never signed up for. We've built a world that bends over backwards to eliminate friction, and we've taken the bait. Thermostats click on before we shiver. Directions beam to our phones before we get lost. Boredom is a national emergency we smother with a glowing screen. Here's the dirty little secret. All that comfort hasn't made us stronger. It's made us brittle. We traded grit for a goose-down existence, and our brains are paying the price. Think of what happens to a leg sealed in a cast. The muscle doesn't sit there waiting. It starts to waste away within hours because the signal to stay strong vanished. Your brain follows the same brutal algorithm. The neural pathways that handle discomfort, the ones that tell you, this sucks but keep going, they don't get a maintenance budget if you never flip the switch. They atrophy. Every time you swerve around a difficult emotion or outsource a messy problem to an app, you're quietly telling those circuits to pack up and go home. This isn't a lecture about willpower. Willpower implies you're a machine that needs more fuel. You're not. You're a biological system designed to adapt to the demands you place on it. Right now, we demand almost nothing. We've confused safety with a total absence of stress, and that absence is a silent killer. A brain starved of resistance becomes a brain that magnifies threats. Small obstacles start to look like catastrophes because the machinery for handling them has rusted solid. Anxiety skyrockets not because the world is worse, but because you're standing in it completely unprepared for a drizzle, much less a storm. We've got the equation backwards. The pursuit of easy didn't set us free. It built a strange cage where we're afraid of the dark, afraid of a disagreement, afraid of a thought that stings. So let's be clear, the choice isn't to pop the bubble. The bubble is the problem. You have to step outside and feel the cold. The brain craves the friction we keep deleting. To rewire it, you must first understand that the very act of struggling is the signal for growth. It's time to take the cast off. You feel that clench in your chest the instant a deadline tightens or a room full of eyes turns your way. That's your amygdala firing off like a cheap smoke detector. An almond-shaped tangle of nerves deep in your temporal lobe. It doesn't negotiate. It just slams the big red button. Before your prefrontal cortex, the thoughtful, rational, you can weigh the odds, the amygdala's already flooded your system with an ancient command. Escape or freeze. Cortisol pours in right after. It's a steroid hormone, and it doesn't mess around. Your working memory fogs up, your vision narrows, and suddenly you can't find the words you knew 5 seconds ago. This isn't a malfunction. It's the primitive brain pulling the ripcord on your executive function. It thinks you're about to become a predator's lunch, not face a quarterly review. So it does what a few 100,000 years of wiring insists upon. It yanks you back into the cave, where it's safe to hide. But here's the rub. That retreat feels like relief. You dodge the hard conversation, push the project, and your brain rewards you with a jolt of comfort. That's the trap. The wiring that saves your life during a house fire is the same wiring that keeps you small during a tense negotiation. Overriding it isn't about going to war with fear. It's about teaching a very stubborn lizard that paper tigers don't eat people. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your brain doesn't learn resilience by accident. It builds calluses the same way your hands do, through repeated friction. That's where voluntary discomfort comes in. Not trauma, not suffering, but small, controlled doses of stress you choose to face. Cold showers at the end of your morning routine. Skipping breakfast once a week. Taking the stairs when the elevator's right there. These aren't punishments. They're negotiations. Every time you sit with that shiver instead of reaching for the towel, you're teaching your amygdala a new language. This isn't an emergency, you tell it. Just a signal we can handle. The first 90 seconds are always the worst. That's when the primitive brain screams loudest. But push past that, and something shifts. The cortisol still comes, but slower. The panic doesn't stick. You've proven you can outlast the alarm. So you've built the calluses. You've sat in the cold and let the discomfort wash over you. But raw endurance isn't the whole game. You can grit your teeth through a storm and still be terrified of it. The real shift happens when you change what the storm means. Psychologists call this cognitive reappraisal, but it's simpler than it sounds. It's the art of the reframe. Think about the last time you had to speak in public. Your heart hammered, your palms got slick, your stomach flipped. Your brain scanned those sensations and pulled up a file labeled panic. But here's the thing. That file is wrong. Those exact same physical signals, the racing pulse, the shallow breath, are identical to what your body does when it's excited. The only difference is the label you slap on it. Tell yourself you're anxious, and your hypothalamus confirms the threat, flooding your system with a chemical mix that narrows your vision and tenses your muscles. Tell yourself you're amped up and ready, and that same arousal becomes fuel. It's not a trick. It's a biological pivot. The reappraisal literally changes the ratio of cortisol to adrenaline, shifting you from a state of freeze to a state of flow. You're not calming down. You're channeling the fire in a different direction. But what if the label isn't enough? What if the stakes feel so high that your entire sense of self is on the line? That's the moment we freeze. Not because we lack toughness, but because we've confused a performance with our identity. The Stoics had a brutal, liberating fix for this. They called it the dichotomy of control. It's a razor-sharp mental filter. Before you walk into any room, you ask yourself a single question. What here is actually up to me? My effort, my attitude, my judgment. That's it. The outcome? The applause, the silence, the promotion, the rejection? That's not up to you. That's external. Epictetus said it plainly. It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about things. A high-pressure moment isn't a threat to who you are. It's just a test of your current wiring. And if you fail the test, well, you haven't failed as a human. You've just identified a faulty circuit that needs rewiring. That's not a tragedy. That's a data point. When your reputation, your safety, or your pride gets poked, the brain doesn't negotiate. The amygdala fires off a cascade of cortisol and adrenaline before you've even formed a conscious thought. Your heart pounds. Your vision narrows. That ancient wiring wants you to react right now. Fight, flee, or freeze. The Stoic filter from the last chapter can separate what's yours from what isn't, but in this first raw instant, you won't reach it. The thinking brain goes dark. So if you try to reason your way out of a cortisol surge, you'll lose. You need a different move. Not a thought. A pause. Not a long one. Just 90 seconds. That's the lifespan of the chemical wave. Neuroscientist Jill Bolt Taylor puts it like this. The emotional story your circuits run lasts about a minute and a half if you don't feed it with more panic. The feeling rises, peaks, and dissolves on its own. Your only job in that window is not to act. This is where tactical breathwork earns its keep. You can't tell your amygdala to chill. It doesn't speak language. It speaks rhythm. So you give it a slow, deliberate cadence. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. That extended out breath pulls the brakes on your sympathetic nervous system. It tells your body, the danger has passed. Even when your mind screams otherwise, the body starts to believe the exhale. You're not suppressing the emotion. You're simply refusing to let it steer. Each time you do this, you starve the old fragile wiring. The circuit that used to snap from insult to outburst, or from criticism to collapse, gets no current. It withers. What grows instead is a new, stronger pathway where a gap lives between stimulus and response. That gap isn't empty. It's where your adult self finally gets a say. So the next time a trigger lights you up, don't think. Don't philosophize. Just breathe, and give yourself the 90 seconds it takes to let the storm pass. The wave always does. And on the other side, you're still standing, your mental strength one thread thicker. That 90-second pause is your emergency brake. It stops the wreck before it happens. But a brake doesn't teach the engine to run cooler. It doesn't reroute the highway of your automatic thoughts. To do that, you need a daily workout. Something you can do in 10 minutes, right after your coffee. Not a journaling session or a gratitude list. This is a cadence of deliberate exposure. Each morning, you take the smallest thing that scares you. A call you're dodging, a messy conversation, and you walk straight into it. Not to fix it, to feel the heat and not flinch. You do it before your brain has time to build the story that says you can't. You're training the circuitry that connects discomfort to survival, rather than disaster. You pair that with a reframe. Not toxic positivity, but a hard-nosed translation. You look at the knot in your stomach and tell yourself, that's anticipation, not anxiety. Or, that's my body preparing to focus. You take the raw signal and rewrite its label in real time. Over weeks, the default mode network, the brain's idle circuit that normally spins worst-case scenarios, starts to borrow this new script. It stops drawing from a library of old threats and begins to trust the field notes you're feeding it every morning. The shift is physical. Fascicles in the prefrontal cortex thicken like muscle fibers. The amygdala's alarm threshold creeps higher. What once triggered a cascade now barely registers as a blip. And here's the strangest part. You'll notice it first in the moments you aren't on guard. The criticism comes, the deadline snaps, the car cuts you off, and you just exhale. No clenched jaw, no rehearsed comeback. Your body didn't get the memo that it was supposed to panic. That's the new default. Calm isn't a state you enter. It's the bone-deep assumption that you're safe, because you've been practicing safety in the face of danger every single day.